Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. Today is the July 2026 SheetLoad Rewind, which means we pick a previous July's SheetLoad of Cards sketch to bring back out of the vault. And the date we are rewinding back to today is July of 2023. So this is a hop. So there's a playlist linked in the description box below where you can go and check out the other team members who are crafting with the July 2023 SheetLoad. I am taking a break from Christmas in July, and I'm going to be playing with some red, white, and blue scraps. I want to make some thank you cards for veterans, and this is a great sheet load to use scraps for. So I have some red, white, and blue scraps that I'm going to see if I can, how many I can get cut down and then piece together, and then we'll kind of figure out how many cards we can make from there.
I managed to get enough strips to make 4 cards, and so I'm just going to sort them out and figure out which patterns are going to work best with which. There will be a link in the description box below to Alicia's video where she tells you how you can access the July 2023 SheetLoad in case you don't already have that one. It will be available for free for a short amount of time before it goes back into the vault, and going into the vault just means that it is no longer available for free. So the only ones who have access to it are her paid channel members. So if you don't already have it, please be sure to check out that link so you can go ahead and get it and have it in your stash to use in the future. It is a great one for scraps. Everything but the white cardstock, I managed to use scraps. So this was a good scrap busting layout for me. And I went through that pile of scraps that I had, picked out ones that were the right length. They needed to be 5 1/4 inches long. And so that weeded out quite a few for this particular part of the card. And then I went through, and then based on how wide they were, that determined which of the pattern paper pieces pattern paper pieces size I trimmed them down to. So that's why a lot of them were too short. So I was hoping to get some more cards, some more A2 size cards out of these strips, out of these scraps. But it is what it is, and I managed to use them up in a different way. So I'm going to get these last strips down on my 4th card, and then I kind of, for that rectangle that goes across the center, I decided to use up some more of my shorter scraps that wouldn't work for the strips. Those are going to be in place of one of the cardstocks. So I trim them down using the measurements on like the single card instructions that she has on the front of the SheetLoad. And then I did do a matting layer with white cardstock just to kind of separate all of the patterns that are going to be going on. And then there is also a smaller strip that goes across this rectangle. And so I am using pattern paper for this because this helped me use some of those smaller bits that I had. So there are a lot of patterns going on these cards, and I do know that I really just wanted to try and use these up. I didn't want to have to put them back into my stash. So I was trying to figure out how I could maximize the use of these scraps and put them to good use. So that is what I ended up doing. And then I have a thank you sentiment from an Altenew stamp set. I will link that in the description box below for you. That would be the only thing I'm using today that's even relatively new. All of these pieces have been in my stash for a while. So, and I think a lot of them had come from Hobby Lobby or older paper pads. So we'll go ahead and get these last ones done. And then I had some other smaller scraps that I'm going to be using on the insides of the cards. And it's just a great way to, I know I say it all the time, so I'm sorry if you are a returning watcher or, subscriber and you're tired of hearing me say this, but it's always fun to have a little bit of interest on the inside of the cards, and it's a great way to use up your scraps. So I have some that I cut a fishtail banner in, and I'm adding them to the top right of the inside of the card or the bottom left. And then I have one larger strip that will fit across the bottom of the card as well. And then I still had some smaller scraps left, and there were certain spots on the card that I felt needed some, believe it or not, that I felt needed something. Like primarily, I felt like the bottom right corner of the card needed a contrasting color, and then on some of those strips, I felt they needed something like the smaller strips going across that rectangle in the middle. I felt they needed something to break that up. So I am in some cases adding more pattern, but in some cases I am just adding white. And again, it was just trying to use up some of those last scraps that I had. And so I brought out my star punch and figured out which ones I could get some stars punched out of, and did bring in some white cardstock as well. There was some that I just turned over to the white side instead of using the pattern side because, yes, in some cases it's probably too much pattern anyway, but I felt it was working against the goal that I wanted to achieve by adding the stars in the first place. So I just turned them over to the white side. And these steps helped me use up a good bit of that scrap stash that I had. And then I did end up having some pieces that would work for strips, but they just weren't quite long enough. And so I ended up making two, I guess they're A1 size cards. They're 3.5 by 5. I had some envelopes that I needed to use up anyway. So I did make two more of those, and that used up the rest of the stash. Hope you guys enjoyed my scrap busting cards. Please be sure to check out that playlist linked in the description box below, and Alicia's video for the July 2023 sheet load. Thank you so much for your time, and hope you all have a very crafty day.